The first review I uploaded on this channel, all of a few weeks ago, was the Odium, an adorable, pint-sized budget-minded knife designed by Ferrum Knife Works, a pair of bros that, like us, really love knives. And if you haven't seen that review, spoiler alert, I really adore that little knife. Easy to carry, lightweight, yet sturdy and rugged feeling. Great ergos, solid and fidget-friendly action, etc., etc., etc. But the holidays showed up without a warning, and I had gotten so busy buying up new knives that I may or may not have completely failed to pick up gifts for my loved ones. Whoops. So I went through my collection and had decided which one of my babies would have to be packaged up, wrapped up, and given away, like some illegitimate bastard child.
Say it louder. Say it louder. I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
And well, it's like the ages-old stories go, man meets knife, man falls in love with knife, man has to give knife away with a bow on top because he's completely oblivious to what fucking month it is. So, the day after Christmas, I realized my brother's gift that he had loved so much had left an Odium-shaped hole in my heart. So I quickly and frantically began to search for something to fill the gaping void in my soul, and I found this. The Ferrum Prolix, the most recent creation to come out of the Ferrum We Knife Co. collaboration, is in a lot of ways, or well, in pretty much all ways, the fraternal twin of the Odium, whereas you can tell they're related, but you would never have guessed they were actually twins. The Prolix is yet another Ferrum design that really speaks to me. If you've watched any of my past videos, you'll know that I really adore clean lines and simple, elegant designs, as long as they don't forfeit any amount of utility for their looks. Compared to the Odium, we've got a lot of similarities. G10 scales that are ever so slightly shadow boxed by the stainless steel liners. We have a flipper tab and a nice, easy to access groove along the blade for thumb flicks and reverse flicks. We've got a ho-hum looking stainless steel deep carry pocket clip that works exceptionally well, and like the Odium, this guy is a very small, borderline tiny little knife. But there are a few differences, a few that are very obvious, and the rest require a slightly closer look. So, shall we? Unlike the Odium, the G10 scales are not contoured at all, just flat, lightly textured and chamfered scales. And where the Odium is available in a plethora of fun, playful, and bright colors, the Prolix, at least so far, is available in the standard 3 flavors: black, tan, and OD green. Overall, the looks and the aesthetic is Ferrum through and through. Everything here is just so tastefully done, and to such high manufacturing standards thanks to we. The shadow boxing around the scales adds a little extra something, and the almost imperceivable contour along the back of the handles is flawlessly continued across the top spine of the blade. It's all just so clean and crisp, even down to the very minimal hardware. Just 3 screws and a perfectly straight line from the pivot to the butt end of the handles. And I like that very simple and minimalist Ferrum shield on the show side of the pivot. It all just speaks to me, whispering to me from within the knife case, like the One Ring whispering to Frodo, "Carry me, carry me." And then there's the blade, a beautiful little Wharncliffe done up in Nitro V, a newish blade steel we've seen on a lot of Ferrum Forge's more recently released knives, most notably the Stinger. This is the first time I've had any experience with Nitro V, but so far so good. It's been almost a month in my EDC rotation, and I haven't needed to touch up the edge once. And I have to say, the blade is definitely a step up for me compared to the Odium, where the Odium was slightly shorter and all belly. The perfectly ground, super slicey Wharny here is much more up my alley, in terms of both looks and day-to-day usability, at least for my EDC purposes. And even though the flat grind only comes about 65% of the way up the blade, it's perfectly thin behind the edge, and it has met all of my extremely high standards as far as slicing performance goes. This is another one of those knives where I have found myself actively going out of my way to find something to cut up when it's in my pocket. The top of the blade is perfectly chamfered, so there are no sharp edges up here, and the jimping is done very well to give you a good amount of traction with little to no discomfort when you're bearing down into a cut. And like the Odium, we get that nice, big forward finger choil, so no matter the size of your hands, you'll be able to lock in with all 4 fingers. And that segues us perfectly into ergos. And just like the Odium, the ergos on the Prolix are dynamite. Even without the contoured scales, this thing just snuggles right up to my hand flawlessly. No hot spots or pressure points to report. Everything from the tip of the blade to the butt end of the handles has been perfectly chamfered, crowned, and polished to feel as soft and as gentle as a lover's embrace. Every digit has a happy home, and you get plenty of grip from the very slight texturing on the scales and jimping along the top of the blade. If there is one thing Ferrum Forge does extremely well, it's ergos, and the Prolix does not disappoint. Moving right along to the action, oh baby, and here I thought the Odium was a restless hand's best friend. Because, this is a Wii-made knife. We're running on ceramic bearings like the Odium, but the Prolix's blade is just a touch longer and a tad bit heavier, so we need a lot less shaking on the close, and it's just as reliable and satisfying on the open. And it makes a great noise to boot, opening and closing. Also, unlike the Odium, I can actually get in a good thumb flick, thanks to the slightly bigger and easier to access finger groove on the blade. So you can go in for the flipper, which thanks to the well-tuned detent snaps the blade out 100% of the time without fail, or you can go in for the reverse flick or thumb flick, no problem, or you can be boring and wheel it out with your thumb ever so slowly. Needless to say, you will not feel starved of options when you go to actuate and fidget with this knife. One minor gripe I do have, the lock bar feels like it is just the tiniest bit too stiff and just a hair too hard to get a hold of. Where the Odium had jimping on the lock bar, so you could get your finger in there, here it's just smooth stone-washed titanium, so you really have to dig your thumb in there to free the blade. But it really didn't take me too long to get used to it, I suppose. And finally, the thing that sets the Prolix apart from its brother is the price. The Odium, being sold under the Civivi brand name, is priced at or slightly under $50 for D2 and G10. The Prolix, however, will run you $89.95 at most retailers. And yes, you do get the bump in blade steel, and to me the overall aesthetic does give off a more quote-unquote high-end feel. But aside from that and the brand name change, I can't find much that would put the Prolix $40 above the Odium. If anything, I would imagine the contoured scales on the Odium would cost more to produce than the flat scales on this, but what do I know, right? All of that being said, I really adore this little guy just as much as I, and now my brother, loves the Odium. And at the end of the day, I set out to fill a small knife-shaped void in my soul, and I have to say, the Prolix has done just that, and then some. I think it looks better than the Odium, it feels just as nice in the hand, cuts just as well, if not better, has slightly higher level of fun fidgetability as the Odium, and it's a Wharny, and well, I'm a slut for a good Wharny. This being my first Ferrum Forge branded knife, I am impressed. I can only assume if it had a Wii logo on it, it would have cost well over $100. So at a hair under 90, I would happily recommend the Prolix, especially to someone that has been living in that Civivi price range of $50, give or take, and they've decided they want to take a step from there, the next step, but aren't willing yet to break that dreaded $100 price tag. If you think it looks as good as I do, I can assure you it's not just a pretty Chinese face. And I most definitely will not be wrapping this one up to give away come the holiday season of 2021. So, until next time, thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.